Okay. All right. The November 9th meeting of the West Springfield Conservation Commission is hereby called to order at 6:02. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the West Springfield Conservation Commission. My name is Kevin Cote, chairperson. I'll be presiding over the meeting tonight. In accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, I must announce that anyone intending to tape the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide their name and address for the record. The Commission is taping this meeting tonight, and it will be shown live on cable access TV and other computer application and social media platforms. All right. We inform those present that any document that is to be considered or discussed must be made part of the record of the meeting, and an original or a copy must be submitted to the committee before there will be any discussion regarding the document. That would include photos, plans, drawings, printouts, simulations, presentations, and the like. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend, and I'm going to give each commission member an opportunity to identify themselves for the public and the record, starting with Andy.
Andy Cox.
Judy LaFleche.
Danny Hanoush.
Sean Goddard.
Again, I'm Kevin Cote, chair. Procedures will be following during the meeting tonight. Project reps will make a presentation. Members of the commission, our staff, and I will ask questions of the project proponents, and then questions will be taken from the general public here in attendance. We ask that members of the public raise their hands, wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking, and limit your comments or questions to 2 to 3 minutes so everyone has an opportunity to speak. All right. We've done our intro. Onto our agenda. Commissioners, have you had a chance to review the agenda? If so, is there a motion to accept?
Motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda accepted. Is anyone from the public here to speak on a matter that is not currently on the agenda? No takers? Okay, we'll move to okay. The next meeting we're going to have. He's here on official business this time. Okay. All right, so then I guess our first item would be the presentation by Rick Whitney. Please just give your name for the record. And
how y'all doing tonight?
Very well.
All right, great. Sorry. My name is Rick Whitney. I'm not a resident of West Springfield. I'm actually a resident of Andover, Massachusetts. But spend a lot of time here. My fiance lives here. And I'm a graduate student studying ecology and ecological restoration, originally at Harvard University, but now at University of Idaho. And as part of a project this past summer, I reached out to Mark to discuss maybe some opportunities to talk about wetland restoration in the area, see what he was familiar with, and told him what I had to do with regards to this academic coursework that I needed to complete last summer. And we talked about the wetland restoration work that had been done at the high school about 10 years ago. And he was very helpful in sort of providing a lot of information, documentation, historical records, photographs, all kinds of really great stuff that helped me with the project. So he invited me, once I submitted the paper as part of my classwork, I shared it with Mark. And this just as a courtesy, and said, you know, here's kind of what I found and what I looked at, and he invited me to come tonight. So I can share with you sort of the findings of the paper, kind of what I did. I don't know, Mark, if you have any thoughts on best use of time. Yeah. So, yeah.
Do an overview and what you found.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so, you know, essentially, as you probably know, when the high school was, the new high school was built several years ago, about 10 years ago. They had to do a significant amount of work in the surrounding, on the surrounding landscape, which included removing part of a wetland to make room for, I believe it was a fire road and some other access roads and things like that, as required by some wetland laws. That wetland needed to be compensated for, that loss needed to be compensated for by creating wetland elsewhere. What they did is they basically moved, they created more wetland a little bit further down on the property. The road you can see in the picture here was in part where the original wetland was, And where it sort of says, you can kind of see where it says Bag Brook there, and that is the area that was sort of restored into, yeah, right. That area was the mitigated, restored area. So that area was, a bunch of work was done there with regards to doing plantings for trees and grasses and things of that nature to compensate for the wetland loss a little bit to the west there. So there was a significant amount of work done to get that piece of property kind of into a wetland type condition. In order to sort of achieve a sort of a wetland kind of status, you have to look at the nature of the soils. They need to be hydric soils. They need to demonstrate certain hydrologies. Lots of plants and animal types are often investigated to make sure that those are sort of consistent with what you would see in a wetland. So there was an effort made by the organization, I believe it was SMMA, if I'm remembering the name right, that did a lot of the project management and stood up this new wetland by planting trees and wetland grasses and things like that. So typically what you would do in a situation like that is you would, it's all obviously all sorts of permits and plans and regulations you have to adhere to. And then what you would do once the plantings and everything were done to sort of get that area sort of in a wetland, at least set up to be in a wetland state, you would then sort of go on and monitor that over time, making sure that the wetland is actually sort of stabilizing and establishing itself, and that those hydric soil conditions and the hydrology and the other aspects of wetlands are firmly established, and you can walk away thinking that you did a good job. So part of my project was, well, my whole project was to go in and essentially look at what the plan was back 10 years ago to see what was actually done, and then to look at it again today to see what the current state of that particular piece of property was. It's about 6,000 square feet. The original wetland is a little over 4,000, I believe, 4,500 or something like that. So I went there. I did several site visits under different sort of weather conditions. I went, as you know, last summer was very dry. We were in drought for most of the year. So I made sure that I visited the site during and after rainy conditions and whatnot, just to see what was going on there. So I took a bunch of photos. I think I did delivered the document to Mark. He can share that with you if you all are interested in looking at that. But essentially, what has happened is what appeared to happen is the restoration work took place in, I believe it was October 2012, over a 2-week period, about 15 days, I believe. And then as part of the project, it needs to have a monitoring plan. So you're supposed to go in and check in whatever the monitoring plan says it's supposed to be. And you're supposed to measure, you're supposed to determine what you're measuring, how you're measuring it, with what frequency you're measuring it, who's doing the measurement. And typically what you would do in a wetland restoration is do that over several years. You probably do it over 2 to 5 years, let's say. The project did have a monitoring plan, but it sort of seemed to fizzle out. It didn't seem to carry on for any significant duration. I saw pictures from the day that it was completed, and I saw pictures from a year after it was completed, but very little sort of monitoring data sort of in between, and no monitoring data, or at least that was made available to me for any period after a year from the project completion date. So in effect, it looked like the monitoring of that site didn't continue as planned, or as should have happened. And what has really resulted is that there's a significant amount of, I would say, sort of vegetative success there. There are a bunch of trees, like some maples and some black willow and some other trees that were part of the planting plan. Every sort of restoration project has a planting plan. Says we're going to plant these trees and these grasses and these shrubs and here and there, and this is how they're going to be distributed across the site. So on the site, there's a bunch of vegetation that was clearly part of the planting plan. There were a bunch of maples, where the planting plants indicated that they were going to be. And there were also some sedge and rush grasses distributed across the site that were obviously part of some seed mix or something that was just, that was planted there at the time of the restoration. So that's a good thing. The bad part is that most of all of that is getting overtaken by invasive plants, multiflora rose, bittersweet, things like that. And so it really has become sort of overrun with plants that are both non-native and really not indicative of sort of wetland condition. When I went there, there's an intermittent stream bed that's a sort of a tributary to Bag Brook that seemed pretty dry, but most intermittent stream beds were last summer. The land was a little hummocky, and it seemed also very dry. So it just seemed that the monitoring plan really didn't do a great job of keeping a lot of these invasives under control. I'd be very suspect that the soil there are meeting any sort of the hydric soil type attributes that you might see in a wetland, and that again, the vegetation is really sort of not indicative of what you would see. So, at the end of the project, I did form some recommendations, which I'd be happy to go over. The short of it is that the town might consider looking at sort of revisiting that site to see if they want to sort of get it back up to sort of a wetland type, more of a wetland type condition. And that would require, a little bit of, I would imagine, both chemical and mechanical removal of some of the invasives, and then sort of ongoing, more rigorous sort of ongoing monitoring plan. So that's sort of it in summary. I'm happy to take any questions, and we can take it wherever you want, Mark, as far as next steps.
A couple of questions. So it sounds like one of the major issues is the invasives with
right.
that. And you may or may not be able to speak to this, but are there any other areas, or I'm interested to know, is this wetland functioning as a wetland, or are the invasives and some of the plants that should be, if there's upland plants growing in there, is that due to the fact that it's not functioning the way it was intended?
That appears to be the case. It doesn't appear that the hydrology exists there to actually support a wetland. It looks a little bit drier, so it did become more of a sort of upland habitat. So it just looks like it's, it could use a little help on the hydrology side. I don't have any specific recommendations about that, but it doesn't seem to be wet enough, for lack of a better term.
Okay. Commissioners, and other questions?
The ticks really liked it.
That's unfortunate. If you don't, if I
Please,
may.
John.
I recognize this was a specific case study looking at one project.
Correct.
But or either within your experience or amongst your experience with your peers, I think it's a universally accepted truth that replication can be challenging. Hence, the recommended 2-to-1 ratio that conservation often works with. How often do you rate a site successful, I suppose, in your perspective? What have you seen from your
I
peers?
can tell you that in my class, in this particular course of, I think, 48 students, I think only a few actually found that the restoration project that they were investigating at was actually successful. And you're right, they're very challenging. And, if you're eliminating 4,000 square feet of something, then you're probably trying to stand up 6,000 square feet somewhere else, which is sort of the case here. But yeah, it's very challenging, I think.
Thank you. That's helpful to understand. And Mark, do we have this electronically or?
Yeah, so Rick had provided his report afterwards, and I'll send it to you. But I wanted him to give you an overview of what he did. I think it's helpful for you as we go forward when we get replication projects, to know if there's, what to look for and how much to push. As for this site, I had kind of come up with the idea, and it's up to the commission, if we could use some of our conservation funds to have Rick give us a price and do a class at the high school with the students in the biology department about this, with his findings and the replication, and maybe an invasives removal project. I'll have to talk to the teachers and see if it would work. And then suggestions on what to do, so there may be ways to supplement the stormwater into there and things like that as time goes on.
I think that's a great idea.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a
good.
great little spot for that. I mean, the school obviously looks right out over it and easy access. And
Yeah, we'll give them give the kids exposure, they may not do it, but they may go into college and then say, oh, I remember doing this with this guy, and, who knows?
I remember every time I got to skip out on class in high school, so
Yes,
it should have a lasting impact.
yes, exactly. So, yeah, it's more fun in the woods.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thought. I don't think, if you could get me an idea of what costs, and I'll talk to I have to talk to the biology department, and then clear it through the school department.
Yeah, sure.
So it may be spring, which I think is more indicative to
that'd
what
be,
you were talking about
yeah,
in
exactly.
terms of being able to demonstrate anything anyway.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right. That was great, very informative. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay. All right, back to the agenda.
All right. Next up, we've got some enforcement matters, starting with 42 Pheasants Crossing. Evening.
Since we last spoke, there's just one document I want to give you, and I understand there may be a desire to have the notice of intent, but I just wanted you to see this one. I think I made enough copies. Document, and this is an idea that Mark had. And I think if you did this, nothing gets tied into a wetland. And all it is 5 very short duration trenches, so it's a deviation from the one I gave you last time. And is there enough for you, Mark? Do you have one?
They're coming. I've just given Kevin the old one.
No, I got another one.
I got them.
Oh, has it got both in it?
Are these the same?
No, that's what I thought to explain. So, if you recall, the prior one would bring it into the wetland in the back and the wetland in the front, behind the property up front, and there was some concern about notice to that neighbor. Which, by the way, I spoke with that neighbor, and he had no objection to that, but this new plan wouldn't tie anything into wetland, and all it would do is, and was an idea actually Mark gave me, where you take four areas. You just dig down in the yard and put the dimensions that are on there. It's about roughly like 6 by 4, say. You're going down, you fill it with trap rock, you cover over loom on the top, and it acts as like a natural just percolator for the water. So, and I talked to Mark, and then I subsequently talked with a wetland specialist who just does this, and he said this type of stuff, this is essentially called like a rain garden concept, and what will happen there, we don't have to do anything to the wetland. It just goes right there. It's not even close, and if you look on without exact measurement, that just shows you where it is. So the only thing, the long line already exists, which is most of it, 90% of it's outside of the buffer. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 short little trenches would be the only thing with those little boxes, and that would be it. And I think that, I would think, would address all of the issues that we were getting into last time, because they go away, because we're not putting anything into any wetlands at all. And it just, if there's too much flow that goes in there, as I understand, it just comes back to the top of the lawn, the grass where it is, and it just passes as it normally does. So we take that risk. If it doesn't work, then in 2 years, I come back and with a full notice of intent and say, hey, it's not working, I want to try to connect it. But it's more cost, but I don't mind doing it if it works. And I think it alleviates a lot of the concerns, and I think it could be done by way of an enforcement order as opposed to going through the whole thing, because there's no impact to any possible neighbor, because nothing's going in. The only one that could have impacted neighbor was the front yard, and now that's gone because this would happen this way. So I would, that would allow me to get a driveway for the winter. I think it alleviates the bigger concerns which the board expressed, which I understand. And I don't think there'd be any benefit, even if we were going to get a new delineation of them, whether they move 4 feet or 6 feet, this is still so far away, non-impact whatsoever. So I'd ask the board just to act on it as an enforcement order, which I think was what Mark was. We had some mix-up in our communication. Quite frankly, not sure I understood it, but that would allow the board, if it chose, to do it this way, and then alleviate the need of having to go through the whole formality, cost with experts and everything like that, and coming back a later date. So I'd ask the board to consider it.
I mean, the plan is, looks reasonable, and I think something like this, I recall being suggested last time. But it's work that requires a permit. We've been here before, like, I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, you can talk to the neighbors and all that, but if there's a rule, and we know the rules should be, if there's work, and the work requires a permit, then as I said last time, let's go follow the rules and do it the right way. Because if we don't, my issue is that everything that this board does and everything that we do, every single taxpayer in this town is liable for it if we mess up. And if we knowingly don't follow our rules, don't get permits, don't notify abutters, maybe that person is fine, but if we don't follow the rules and give them the proper channel and open up the floor for debate and communication and that everyone's been notified about, all it takes is one person coming back down the road and saying, hey, you didn't follow your rules, I'm pissed off, and I've got water in my basement. Whether that's water is your fault or something else, it's a big problem. And I've had this room packed full of angry people around some of our projects. And luckily, we've always followed our rules. We've had all the permits, we've had all the studies, we've had all the backup. So I can protect the town by following those rules. And if I don't, I'm putting everybody at risk. And I'm a taxpayer too, so are you. Like, we all get hurt if we don't cover our butts and follow the rules. So that's my issue on the NOI. I think.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. The only thing I would suggest to you, and I have no problem if it seems like the direction you want to go, is you are empowered to do this under an enforcement order. It is following the rules, and that's why you're empowered to do it, and that's why Mark suggested that originally, because it's something within your power. If you didn't have the power to do it, then you wouldn't be following the rules. So that would be my only distinction I would make, and I think it's an important distinction, because it enables you in a situation like this. Perhaps the prior plan I gave you, I understand, saying, okay, let's get an NOI, and I thought about it, and I met with Mark, and we spent some time out there with David, and I talked to an expert on it, and I said, okay, those are a lot of legit. Perhaps this is more palatable because it's such a nominal impact that has no impact beyond that area. That, to me, is the distinction between last time and today, that you can act on losing the term now. But
Yeah, we do at times issue work orders under enforcement, but
That's
that's
all.
typically
Yeah.
for the person who, a lot of people aren't familiar with wetland rules, and it's a surprise when things happen. And also, a lot of times, that's more of an emergency situation where we need to make sure something can happen fast. But we've been here before. This is not the first time you've been here with this particular property. This should have come through the right channel, and to go down that route, like that, what I would consider an exception, again, that raises serious concern for me that this board is just not. Again, it's work that requires a permit. Let's get the permit. Let's review it. This plan may be great and reasonable, but let's do it with all the rules followed, every abutter notified, and then anyone who wants to raise an objection can't say that they weren't told and that they didn't have
That's
a
fine.
chance.
That's fine. If I didn't articulate what I think the distinction is, you heard it, you don't accept it, I'm fine with that.
Fair enough.
Okay. So, does it automatically go on the 14th? Because I can't get a notice of intent. I can't get a number because I got a 20-year-old, 25-year-old order of conditions that were worked on all, trying to find a way, because when they built the house 25 years ago, there was a cloud in the title. We thought it was cleared at closing, and apparently it wasn't recorded. So you can't even get a number for a notice of intent, which means this
Well-
may not happen for quite some time. I guess that's my only caveat.
You want to explain the
So
procedures?
you can still file your notice of intent. We can't get an order number from DEP until those certificates are filed. So the process could be reviewed as we're waiting.
So you guys will review it without that order?
Right, we can start reviewing it. We just can't issue a new order until those other orders are closed.
So you would, if hypothetically, if you said, okay, we're fine with this, we'll pass it subject to that order coming down at some
Yeah, I
time.
mean, it's protection for you too. I mean, you don't
No,
want.
I have no issue
the
with that, Mark.
future,
I'm
yeah.
just trying to understand the
Yeah,
process, so we're.
file it and get it going, and we can get started pending an order number,
Right.
knowing we have COCs. This happens all the time. We'll get an
So
NOI
you'll
in,
vote subject to?
we'll get an NOI in, we won't be able to get a number yet,
Okay.
Yeah, they may
because we
not
have
be able-
COCs that have to be dealt with, and as part of the hearing, and part of what we do is we'll do the review, we'll look at, we'll look
Cool.
to issue COCs, and then the conditions for the permit for the new work that has to happen, that we do
Yeah,
that all
I'm
the
fine
time.
with that. That's cool. All right, as long as you guys can, do it during the interim, and then
Yeah, we can
if
review.
it takes 3 months, it's ready, and then in the spring we do it.
Yeah, it can be reviewed and notice, the neighbors can talk, you probably even could close the hearing,
So
but
what
you
happens when
couldn't
they all
issue
fill
the
the room
number.
here as proponents for this plan? I'm
Makes
good.
our
Thank
lives
you.
easier, I guess.
I won't take any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else on that one, Mark?
No, we'll deal with it as it comes in.
Okay,
The only thing is I'll have to issue the enforcement order, which you already ratified, so I made some adjustments and that's it.
all right,
And
and
I'll
we
send
had
it
the
to you to
language in
make
there
sure.
that NOI
Language
was
is in
required.
there, yeah.
Good.
All right.
Anything else, commissioners, anyone wants to say on that particular project? All right. 58 Front Street, in abutting land, cutting of trees and wetland, reduced area, resource area without a permit, ratification needed. What's going on at 58 Front Street?
So there's wetlands that drain out of the hillside. Some of them are springs, some of them might be drains from historical, going back to the 1800s. So the land has always been wet. The previous owner, Mr. Tatro, had various run-ins with the Conservation Commission, and there have been enforcements. And there were plans done that show wetlands. So I included that in the enforcement order package that you got. And I had also, the current owner had hired Mr. Petrus as their wetland consultant, and he had reached out to me back in '21, and there's a copy of correspondence from me to him at that time saying, look, he needs to do something before he, similar to what we just saw, before he does any work. Well, he started cutting trees and didn't have a permit. Now, I think that their belief is that maybe those wetlands are isolated or whatever, but that's not the process. The process is they gotta claim it. They gotta go in and do a delineation, you make a decision. If they disagree with your decision, they appeal to DEP and they go to the Army Corps or whatever. But you can't just go to the Army Corps and skip us. And I think they, in their minds, went to the Army Corps, but didn't actually go to the Army Corps. So they think that it's insignificant, but we don't know that. So at the moment, we have to treat it like a wetland. So I issued that, basically, that they come back and get us a wetland delineation and get it approved. And if we disagree on it, they can appeal it to DEP.
Okay,
So
so
it starts the process. So I just ratifying that, and I can send something out.
okay, questions, commissioners? Comments? Debate of any kind? Okay,
All right.
all right, you'll send something around, Mark, and we can
Yeah,
ratify.
just vote on it, that's all. Vote to ratify the enforcement that I sent you.
You already sent it around.
Yes, I emailed it to you, too.
Okay, so, oh, that's right, I saw that coming through before the meeting started. So,
I can open it.
has everyone had a chance to look at it? Do you want to take a quick, open it up and just,
Yeah, there it is, if anybody wants, oh, you want to see, there's the big work right there. It says, you know, basically get us a plan. This is the history of what happened, and this is basically the actions. Get us a plan, either a RDA or an ANRAD, prior to the next meeting, December 1st. Chances are they'll come in and ask for time, but at least this starts the process.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Are we saying that we know there are wetlands there?
Yeah, because we have previous filings that said there were wetlands
That
there.
were,
You know, so that's what these are. These various owners previous to these people actually did say there were wetlands there. So, and there were enforcements, and they got plans done. In order for this owner to change it, he's got to go through a process. you
So
know.
their contention is,
Their
we think the
contention
wetlands
is-
have changed and they're not there, or
Yeah,
they're
they're not
shrunk,
there,
or...
or they're isolated, and they don't meet the requirements of the act, but they
Sounds
have to
great.
prove
Prove
that.
it.
Prove it.
Got it. Makes sense. All right, so is there a motion to ratify that?
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Andy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next up, we have Somerset Heights. We had illegal dumping of fill within riverfront area of Piper Brook.
So I talked to our Levesque associates today, Ryan Nelson, and he informs me they'll have something for us to deal with on this on the meeting of the 14th in December.
Okay. All right, so we'll
Continue.
continue that one till December. Next up, we have 31 Massasoit Ave.
31, so, yeah, so, oh, there he is, okay.
Good evening. Attorney Vitaly Yuseiko, on behalf of the homeowner Miroslav Tasayev. So the last remaining items with this is an affidavit that Mr. Tasayev signed today stating that he's aware of the order conditions that was put in place, that he was supposed to have signed when he purchased the property. And so that'll be recorded tomorrow, and that'll take care of that issue. And the second, so when Anderson Associates created the plan that this commission reviewed and approved, he had listed the proposed plantings, the Shablo, serviceberry, Emmelanchier, flowering dogwood, river birch. So when my client went to go purchase those, he was informed that those are gone for the season and they won't be back until the spring. And so he's asking leave of the commission to allow him to wait till spring to purchase and plant those local native plants. And that'll, again, be easier to find then, and it'll reduce the risk if he were to proceed at this time that they be killed off by the frost like we had last night anyways. So I guess that's what is left, and we'll leave it to you.
Okay, request to move the planting to the spring. Commissioners, any questions, concerns?
I'm fine with it.
Seems reasonable.
Just amend the order, the enforcement order, we'll add that, and I'll just reissue it.
All right, so what, so we, a motion to amend the order,
Amend the enforcement order to, you know, it's
Allow
time for
time.
completion, he'll notify us, and time, time for completion in the spring.
Motion to amend the timeframe?
Second?
all
I
in favor?
second it.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, John got the second on that one.
Snuck that one in.
All right, that's great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, MassDOT work on Route 20.
So I reached out to Mr. Notario, have not heard back from him, so I don't know what his plan is. So I did leave him a message and say, text me, call me, tell me. I have not heard from him, so I don't know what to, I'll push to try to get him in for the 14th.
Okay,
Okay,
we're waiting on them.
yep.
All right, other business, we have order 3300361, this is 115 Bernie Ave.
Yes.
The tree removal request.
So as you recall, we had a
We had a
discussion.
site visit, yes?
Site visit.
Yes.
And there were a number of changes on site. I did talk to Ryan of our Levesque Associates, who they've engaged, And they said they're working on a plan because there were a number of other items that were done that weren't on the original approval, and that they were gonna add the trees that they want to remove to that plan. So that's scheduled for the 14th as well.
All right, so we had a site visit. Did anybody trick or treat? We have stuff that needs to get addressed to get the plan in order, and we have the trees that need to get addressed,
Yes.
because you guys want to get those removed.
So,
the-
yeah, the reason why we came today, as he said, Ryan wasn't ready to present the new plan, or amendments, I should say. So it was pretty windy on Sunday, and another branch fell, so I wanted to see if we can speed up the process as far as removing the trees. We took some pictures and marked the trees.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah,
sorry.
you have the pictures,
Yeah.
which needed to be removed, and you guys saw the trees that needed to be removed. So there's a couple issues is, we need to remove those trees, and before we do any work, there are some trees on the side that we didn't think of first, but those are on Brian Kaloji's property. So I talked to him today, and he doesn't have any issues with us remove. Yeah, it was a previous, he doesn't
Oh,
have
the
any
previous
issues
picture?
with us removing those trees. He'll have us go in there and, not us, but obviously a company who's gonna do the job. Those are the trees. Those are to the left of the house. And, so that's what we actually wanted to talk to.
I see you
Yeah,
put
talk
your
about-
markers up.
There's a lot of blowdown there.
Yeah, and, so yeah, those trees gonna, we wanna remove the trees that were marked, the ones on the side, and whatever's down, we want him to crane it out. It's a new sign.
All right.
We'll get you a different language, but anyway.
Okay, commissioners, questions, debate, concerns? Judy, you want to go first?
They're so close to the house that, because if, it's kind of hard to see on the picture, but
I'll do an aerial.
when we
so you
had the
can see.
microburst last year, and all them trees fell, luckily, alongside of the house and not on the house. They're large enough to reach the house, and they're large enough to, kids are playing in the yard and stuff like that, so we kind of, that's our concern. Yeah.
So this corner here is where you think those are?
Which ones? The ones on the Bryan side?
That's
The
Brian.
four other ones, right?
Yes,
That's Brian,
they're,
and then
yes.
yours are over here, right? Behind the pool?
Yeah,
So going back to the photo, where is that?
That's the ones on the right-hand side.
Those are
And
on the
then
right?
the other one, the previous photograph, that's the
yeah,
one that you
those are the
think is on
ones
the
that-
corner?
Those are not on our property. Those 4 trees are on Brian Kaloji property.
And,
Yeah, actually, actually they're dead.
So is the other one on the right-hand side, they are what they call shallow roots pine trees. They are already, like right now when the leaves are down, you could see that some of the root, like you can literally see the roots. It's only the matter of like big wind to bring it down eventually, so it is not safe.
usually, Mark, when we get work on somebody else's property, we get a letter or something like
Yeah,
that.
you're gonna need that from Brian.
So from Mr. Kaloji, you'll need something in
Yeah,
writing
he-
that
he
you can
said
share
he'll
with
write an
us.
email or whatever whatever
fine.
it has to look like.
We just need some documentation that he's comfortable.
Okay,
So the only question I had is, you said that he's gonna use a crane as opposed to what he was talking about before?
I thought he was gonna crane them out.
No, he was gonna crane them, but he was gonna create corduroy, put that down, and drive over that to get to them.
I'm not a tree professional, but in my understanding that he needs to go there to cut them, so that's why he's gonna drive over and then
Yeah, that's
crane to use, he's gonna use the crane to pick them up and put them over the brook.
I mean, the crane's a better way to get them out with the least amount of,
Yeah, I just
impact.
don't, that really wasn't what Kerry was saying. Kerry was saying he would put down logs, drive on the logs in the wetland, and then take them and then drag them across, bring them across.
With a cherry picker?
Yeah, like a cherry picker or something.
I believe you have this here.
Yeah, we have that. But it's not very clear, that's the problem. So Ryan said he was gonna include that in his plan, so if we can wait till the 14th, that would be fine, because as we said before, frozen conditions are better than
Yeah, they are.
wet conditions.
Other commission input? Danny?
Yeah, a couple things. So I went out for the site visit briefly. I know Melissa was adamant about having it marked, which is nice that we have a mark now. I'm comfortable moving forward contingent upon Mark maybe being on site during it or going through the process with whoever's cutting down the trees, and doing it sooner rather than later, so that if it is a serious, they are pretty close to the house, and I don't want it on my back if it falls and there's a kid there. So I would.
So I would say if you make that a point, that I have to be there.
Totally
Yeah,
fine.
because Carrie needs to be watched.
So the proposal would be that
In the order and
the
conditions.
cutting, we move forward with everything we're talking about. We'll talk to Levesque on the 14th, but in the meantime,
Right.
cutting could happen with a monitor. That's the proposal on the
Yeah,
floor.
so-
Unless they want to wait
He's-
until Rob Levesque's plans, which will reflect how it's happening. But I would like to give an option to do it sooner if the board feels it's appropriate.
I'd say I would love to remove those trees ASAP, if that's okay.
All right, debate on the floor, commissioners?
I had one other question. Thank you for marking the trees. We wanted to know what the scope was, but you all just said all the fallen too. Like, what's the scope of all of the fallen? I feel like there's a lot, and that could be
There's
potentially
quite
more
a few trees
disruptive
that
if
are
you just
down.
start raking everything out.
I couldn't tell you exactly how many trees are down. There's a significant amount.
Right.
Right.
and
But if
I
they're already
think-
down, how much of that do we really need to remove?
None.
I don't think a lot besides the one
The-
that's like.
The
on
one
the
that's
roof.
right in the brook,
That's pretty.
you know, I would love to have that removed.
He may be able to cut that so that you have flow. I guess your concern is flow, so if,
Yeah.
the idea is, because you don't want it to end up in your house, I get that. So I can work with him, if I'm gonna be on site, that's the requirement, but he's gotta give me notice, enough notice, and he can't do it unless I'm there,
Okay.
right?
All right, are there other,
Yeah, I'm fine with both, and if they want to wait until the 14th with Ryan also mentioning what is happening to the down trees. So I'd like to give them the option of having you there, or, yeah,
Or
for
wait.
doing it sooner, or wait until we have a plan that's
Right.
approved.
Yeah, so if they wanna do it sooner, I gotta be there.
Yeah, that's.
Right, so basically, and unfortunately, I'm not here tomorrow or Friday, so that this week's out anyway. Next week's possible, but there's, I've got vacation time I've gotta take, or they're gonna tell me I don't have it anymore. So I need to coordinate with him.
Okay,
so
I'll tell him.
a point I would add is, yeah, I get it. Like, if there's a tree in the brook and we talked about this last time, you want it out because you don't want that clogging things up and then you get a flood. That all makes sense. I would say, yeah, I think it's important that is the intent and spirit of what we're looking to do. Like, I'll just make it clear, like, I don't want everything gets cleaned out of that space and suddenly there's grass and a bridge and a lawnmower going over there. Like, that's not what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
It should be
Yeah, no,
natural.
that's-
If it doesn't have to get taken out to address the flow in the brook,
Yeah.
it shouldn't get taken out.
Okay.
That fair?
That's not what we're looking for,
Okay.
clearly, and. the
Just
la-
wanna
last
make
thing
sure.
I wanna do is mess
Yeah,
with.
so work on the Kaloji letter for us, and
Okay.
then as soon as I get that, I'll draft up what they're saying and, sort of it's part of.
Yeah, what
they're
I would
already
recommend
under an
is
order.
whoever's going to do the work, when you call them and say, hey, we want to move forward, when can you do it? Let them know. First thing they has to do, has to have a pre-project meeting with Mark. Call Mark on the phone, talk about the plan.
Okay,
Then schedule the work date with you
With-
and Mark.
Okay.
That's how it should flow. And then we'll hit on all the points.
And one more thing, so the letter from Brian Kaloji, is there any form that has to be, certain form, or
Nope.
just?
No, he's
A
just
letter
saying,
from him
"I'm
that
the
says,
owner,
hey, I
I'm the
understand you want to
owner,"
cut down the
and-
trees, that you put in that picture right there, like include that in the email.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, we're gonna take these down, are you okay with that? He'll write back, I'm comfortable with you guys doing the work on my property, I give you permission.
And also just check with him to see if he would mind if you left them there.
Those trees?
Yeah,
Okay.
because you could technically you could drop them and leave them there.
Okay, I'll ask him.
Yeah, trees on the ground is fine for the
They'll
forest.
just rot.
So, how long will it take for you guys to process the permit and all that stuff?
Well, I'm not here 2 days, so next week sometime.
Next week?
It's really
No, I
for
don't
you
know
to
if it-
talk to Brian, get that letter from him, get Kerry to give me, he's got to work out a schedule with me.
Okay, all right,
All right, good?
yeah, thank
All right.
you, guys.
All right, thank you.
We'll see you next month.
And we'll do it, I'll do it as like a letter as part of the order. They're under an order already, so.
Got it. We can add.
So we're just adding it. The other stuff is coming in because they did other work that is not in the plan, like this.
Which you have to
garage,
address
and you have to
separately.
address that.
So we'll deal with that on the 14th. In the meantime, they can get their
When you
trees.
guys referring to the 14th, that's December or the next?
December.
December.
So, yeah, we definitely want to move on closer, because I looked at the calendar, 14th is like.
It's a month.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there are 4 minor projects that need commission consent.
Yeah, so some of them are things that I had already, well, I'll explain. So 70 Benedict, let me give pictures there. Another tree cutting thing. Oh, sorry, yes, thank you. Totally lost. Yeah. All right, so these are trees that are within the 50 feet, so out of me being able to just say it without talking to you guys. But they're in a lawn area, and he told me he's not gonna put anything in the wetlands. So the wetland's like 20 feet from the fence, and he's not gonna do anything there. But I said, I can't approve that without talking to the commission. So I gave him the forms to file and he would file an RDA, or if you guys say you think it's okay, then, you know,
So they're gonna do tree work inside the fence,
inside the fence,
and what are they gonna remove them?
remove them. Yeah, I assume because they'll
They're
probably.
working in
want-
their lawn, there's a fence in between the wetland. I personally think that's, just go for it area.
Yeah, and there's one, it's not this one, but there's another one that, it's not this photo, that I had already said, I can give you permission for that, but that was way away from the wetland. Sorry.
Commissioners,
up closer
any
to the
thoughts on
street.
that? I mean, they're on their lawn, there's a fence. I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, I'll just write up a little thing saying that it's okay, as long as you don't put any debris in the wetland or over the other side of the fence, and that you don't bring in fill and all that stuff.
All right, that's good. 306 Westfield, garage construction?
So, 306 is just up here just before City View. There's a dentist's office in the back, he's gonna put a garage. The 10-foot setback between the garage and the property line is where the buffer is. So, the 100-foot buffer is 90 at his property line and 10 feet hits the garage. So he might have site work. I just said to him, don't let any erosion go across your neighbor's property into the wetland. If you do, you're in trouble, but other than that, I think it's okay. Any problem? That's something I think you guys would normally let me say.
Reasonably flat land?
Yeah, it's flat where he is, and then it's flat where the vet is, but then it drops. But there's 75 feet or so between him and the wetland. Or, well, it's actually 90 feet.
Yeah.
Because there's 10 feet on his property. It's clearly out in the outer buffer. It's not something that, he'd have to really do something stupid to get sediment into the wetland.
That's fine, yeah. And as long as you give them the warning, like, don't,
Yeah, I told him,
don't make me come
he
back
said I
out
might
here.
do it on the weekend, and I said, I'll stop.
All right, that sounds good.
Yep. So, 66 Penrose is just a deck addition. I don't think it's an issue. It's something you would normally say I could do. It's in their lawn, and it's just a little bump out on an existing deck.
Is it in a buffer or riverfront? or-
Buffer, but it's, the wetlands are on it, the budding part, I'll show you. Let me show you. 66, oh, Penrose.
66 Penrose.
Yeah, I have to drive over there because I don't have my keyboard. Where am I? All right, down here. Where's Gooseberry? So there's Penrose. And 66 is, I believe it's this one. I have to add my property lines. Parcel, yeah, that's 66.
Okay.
So there's a deck, and they're just adding a little section of deck. The
Conversion
wetland-
of lawn to deck.
Yeah, the wetlands on this property over here. This is the property where I've been getting reports that they're having lawnmower races in the wetland.
Oh,
That's from, and I haven't had a chance to get out there yet. This is 721 Amestown Road. So I gotta get out there and make sure. But I did reach out to the landowner to try to get it to stop.
lawnmower races.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, minis.
Wow, all right.
All right, and then the last one is, you approved something for St. Thomas Cemetery. So with COVID, the permit, it was a determination, normally it probably would have expired, but because of COVID, they extended it 426 days. So the original stopping line is here. He just wanted to get in behind it. It's still in the buffer, and I kind of thought he was good, but if you want him to file, that's up to you.
What are they trying to do?
They're just trying to create, so this was the end where they were doing the new graves, if you may recall. But then the maintenance guy wanted to be able to get back here in case people throw stuff down the hill, so he's trying to establish a roadway. He says, I make it nice, but it's, his idea is nice. It's a buffer, so it's not in the wetland, it's a buffer. So I said I'd run it by you. I think it's fine, but it's really up to you guys, if you want him to file.
Commission?
So this pin here was the end of what you approved, where they went another 30 feet up into the buffer. But it's still in the buffer.
I mean, what's your opinion on this, Mark? Just from,
It's in
like,
the
is this a
buffer, right?
must file, or
If he
is this
files
a,
it, then you'd approve it, I think. That's what my feeling is.
it'd be a negative?
It'd be a negative with conditions that just don't go in the wetland.
Right.
I mean, it is the problem over at the cemetery, there's always creep, but, But they tell us they're stopping at the graves here, but I don't know. That's this generation. Who knows what the next generation wants to do?
Yeah,
I'm
I
fine.
mean,
I
if
mean,
you
I
think it
could-
fits within the minor project
Right,
definition.
it's one of those,
then
but it's,
am fine.
again, you did issue a determination, and, he should have come to us, and I said, send me information, tell me what you want to do, and I'll ask. But, it's
So
just
let me just ask one more time. Does this fit the definition of a minor project?
Sure, it's some removal of vegetation in the buffer is still in the outer 50, I think, so I think he's good.
Okay.
If he were in the inner 50, I think I would have a different story to tell you.
Got it. Any debate on this one, commissioners? Judy?
Isn't there a
Your mic's
really
off.
big drop right here?
Judy, your mic's
So
off.
I've got pictures on
Isn't
my
there a big
drive.
drop right here?
there's pictures on my drive of that area. Where is it? Wrong place. So, behind this, they have a pile that sits behind, I'll show you on the aerial, actually, it'd be easier. All right, cemetery, where are you? Down here somewhere. There you are. So this area here, they've used for years. And in the past, we've had them pushing stuff over. And I think we've got them to understand that they can't go any further. So there's a wetland down at the bottom of this hill. But over here, the wetland moves away. So I think that where they're working is in the outer 50. Because when they filed, it was barely in.
So if they clear away more brush there, there's not a chance of more erosion that will go over?
No, they're putting wood chips down, and so, you know, they, in some ways, they've done the work. I probably could do an enforcement, you know, and tell them to plant more trees back, but, you know, that's the other alternative. If you want to look at it, I'll tell them don't do anything until you look at it. It's up to you.
No, that, I'm familiar with that area. I walk in there all the time, so if you,
Yeah, and
if
there are
you think the
neighbors
wood
that-
chips are fine, I'm okay.
The reason I knew it is one of the neighbors ratted them out, so.
It
Like
wasn't
I
me.
went looking for it.
Oh, what was the neighbor's concern?
He walks through there and said that he thinks they're filling in the wetlands, which, when I looked at it, so I'll show you where the wetland hydrology, what's the town website say for
Number
wetlands?
2, TOWS wetlands.
There, Mass DEP wetlands. And there's town wetlands. What's that? Did you say T? So see, here, where that area that I've had debates with them in the past, that ravine, they pretty much have respected that, but over here, that wetland's further away.
Yeah, I see that. And, I mean, if a neighbor complained, they're asking us to look at it.
Yeah, and I called the neighbor and did not hear back from him. I said, give me a call. He didn't contact me directly. He contacted somebody on the garden club that I know and said, you know, hey, a friend that is concerned.
Got it.
Can you put the tape measure from the
Yeah, I'll go
road to yeah, from there,
to where?
no, just down to the edges, yeah, from there to the, no, the other one,
This one?
yeah, straight down.
Yeah. Sorry. Pete. That's Miles. Pete.
Actually, that one, I think.
Hmm?
The other one, the little arrow.
Yeah, so if I go here,
Everything. Yeah, click now.
now I gotta click this up. Sorry. Oh, I screwed that
Oh,
up. I
boy.
gotta clear it.
It's like 200 feet.
Yeah, no, it's, I gotta clear that, sorry. Clear,
Move that measurement thing to the left, move the whole bar to the left.
yeah, usually it does, it cooperates like that, but for some reason it's not doing that for me. See, it's just opening it.
All right.
So, let's try this again.
No, you're not selecting. Forget about it.
No, we can do
How wide
this.
is the road again? Like 20 feet, something like that?
Alright,
I think you're far, I think they're far enough away.
alright.
I think that's the actual one.
Double click.
Double click, yeah.
That was not double click.
Oh, that was a double click.
All right, now.
No, see, it's not doing it.
No, just go back, go back, go back. Just do another small measurement that won't be impactful. That's a single click. All right.
No, it doesn't do it, see? Even we have technologies, now we're up to 438 feet.
Give me this, give me this, give me this, give me this.
Do it. Oh, look at that.
That's a double click, 167 feet.
I think we can let this one go. I don't even know if we're in jurisdiction other than this area here. How far
No,
is
it's
it?
close. I mean, I think over here it gets close, but, you know, and this is, may not be totally accurate, but I remember when they filed that I thought they were, part of it was out and part of it was in. It was like.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the
two,
outer.
they're out. Like,
Right.
we're 100 feet. That's our,
Right.
we're a 100
Well,
foot buffer. That was
But
170.
I remember when they filed and where they were putting the graves was probably in the outer 50. You know, maybe even the outer 20, you know, 80. They were out like at 80, and part of it was out completely. But it was, now he's inside a little more, so but I still think he's less than 50.
Right.
I mean, there's 50 feet to the wetland.
It's all right by me.
It's, you know, I can make him come in and do the whole rigmarole, and you're gonna say, oh, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's it. Huh? Yeah, so I'm like, oh, do you want to do that? We can, you know,
I'm comfortable allowing this to proceed.
yeah.
Same. All right.
I
Judy?
can tell them to get glue out and glue the trees back.
My mic's off, Judy.
Well, we have this picture on here,
Where would you like to go?
there,
Where would you like me to navigate?
right here. I don't, see the blue, come down from the blue, and there's, you can see dirt here.
Yes.
Yeah, there, throughout the year, there's mountains of dirt there. And then
Right.
there's not dirt there. Is that okay to have mountains of dirt there?
Yeah, we've talked, we did some work with them in the past. And I walked down in here, the wetlands down at the bottom of this hill, and we permitted that in the past.
Okay.
But told them not to go past a certain point, and they, you know, again, he gets, sometimes, I think he wanders away. Merrick, the grounds person. He said, oh, I'm making it pretty, and I'm like, I said, well, that isn't how we see it. It's not how the law sees it. And, you know,
Everything's a blade of grass when you got a lawnmower.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? We good?
Good,
All right. Then there we go. Another minor project letter.
so I'll just tell them to check. I'll
Any-
double check. I'll take pictures.
All right. Anything else that's on the calendar here?
At the moment.
On that case, I'll close the hearing, or close the meeting here at 7:05. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thanks, that went faster than I thought.